And good evening, everyone, to another OSR Tabletop with myself, DM Bloodworth or GM Bloodworth. Richard, for those of you that know me on a more frequent and personal level, although everyone now in this chat is welcome to call me Richard if you wish. And I am joined today by Don Semora. Sorry, Don Semora. Welcome, Don. It's great to have you on the channel. And
thanks.
Great to talk about this topic because I think this is something that both of us have at least some connection to as far as being a special guest at a convention and you being a convention organizer. And so I really like to go into this subject of talking about the expectations, both the give and take between special guests and convention organizers and vice versa. So without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself, Don, and let us all know what you are renowned for.
Well, I'm Don Semora. Everybody knows me. I'm the owner of Wizard Tower Games, and I develop games and write books and have worked with a lot of different people like Tim Kask and, me and Scott Mulder doing a game together, Eric Tenkar from Tenkar's Tavern, Tom Verholt from Tabletop Tap Room. And I also decided with a level of insanity with my wife is to start a game convention. And last April was our premier year one introduction to the chaos. And that's pretty much what I'm known for. And, been to one convention as a special guest, Total Con, which was an awesome convention. They know how to run a con. Wow. So yeah, that's pretty much the cliff notes of me.
Okay, and you're also in the works of publishing Gangbusters BX along with Mark Hunt.
Yeah, Mark Hunt has chosen our company to publish Gangbusters BX. Me and kind of give a breakdown. Me and Tim Kask just the other day have talked. We're actually going to be publishing another OSR module that he originally created. So me and Tim Kask is going for round 2, but this time it's going to be a simple game module. Me and Scott Mulder are working on Interstellar. I'll be publishing Tom Verholt and Eric Tenkar's new core game for their fantasy RPG. And just basically busy as hell, which is a good thing, I guess.
All right, and just so you all, everyone watching knows as well, I have never run a convention, although I kind of thought about it, and to be honest with you, it is such an undertaking, and it is something that because I know quite a few people who have launched new conventions. I met them in their first year. I went to their conventions for the first time, or in the second or even third year, and it is something that I give convention organizers a lot of credit for. It is an undertaking that is just I'm sure very stressful, and it's something because it's I'm a retired school teacher, and I was also a union rep in my school building, and when teachers came to me suggesting that they were going to go on a class trip, all right, and I used to tell them all the time, there are 10 things that can happen on a class trip, and 9 of them will cost you your license. All right. And I kind of look at starting a convention and being out of pocket, certainly for that first time around, and you're taking on all of the risk and all of
Yeah.
the, and there really is only one potential outcome where it is just phenomenal, and exceeds all expectations. And so I kind of equate them to the same challenge, in a way. Like, you are hurting cats, like you are hurting,
Oh yeah.
60, 120 kids, on a thing, and you have to keep tabs of everything going on at once. And to be honest with you, since I retired, I was like, nah, I'm just not into stepping into that kind of a thing. So I give you all a lot of credit. Now, the other place that I'm coming from is that I have been a special guest
Hmm.
at now three smaller conventions. So I was a special guest at Page Two.
Yep.
So the second year of Page was this past January.
Which, in all fairness, is not really a small convention. I mean,
Well, yeah, it
they hit the ground
wasn't.
running.
It was not. It has exponentially grown
Yeah.
from the first year to the second year for sure. But I was a special guest at Page Two. I was a special guest at AutoCon this year. It was AutoCon, the fourth year of AutoCon, which is a very local, small convention for
Yeah.
me here in my hometown. So I was like, awesome, And I was a special guest at the Central New York RPG Con in its inaugural year.
Yeah.
So, uh, and all of these individuals, I have met, like the I'm going to keep on calling them runners, but they're convention organizers. I have known for quite some time
Hmm.
prior to being a special guest and going to their conventions and whatnot. I've also gone to several other local conventions, such as ShireCon, from
Yeah.
very beginning of when that started, or maybe the second year of it, and also Rising Phoenix,
Hmm.
which is in Massachusetts. And so, and that's the one that I have a conflict with WizardCon. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
In all fairness, I mean, I invited you last year to WizardCon, but people keep grabbing you up on me.
yeah,
So
so it's, well, we're going to alternate, right? So and that's something that I had said to some other convention
yeah.
organizers, is that I'm pretty good with about 5 conventions every year,
Hmm.
and two of them sleepaway, but I have to alternate those sleepaways. So that's kind of where I'm at. And
Hmm.
but anyway, so we are going to talk about the expectations in both directions for
Yeah.
special guests. And so I'll let you launch off with this. And so let me ask you, what are your expectations as a convention organizer for special guests?
Sure. Well, let me just start off by addressing something you said earlier. Is I have I've been gaming since 1977.
Mhm.
And I have been to a whole bunch of different cons, conventions. Some are still going, some have long been, stopped. And, it's easy to sit on the outside and go, I can do that. That's gonna, that's kind of what I did to my wife. Let's go do a convention together. But you're right. When you get into the meat and potatoes of it and you get into the guts of it, it's a hell of a lot of work and it's an undertaking. And you're right. All the risk is with you.
Mhm.
Um, and I think you have to have a mix of fanaticism for the hobby and a little bit of insanity, especially for a husband and wife team like me and my wife did. My wife's a school
Right.
teacher, by the way. She teaches
Right.
developmental kindergarten. So, you're right. It's a hell of a lot of work. And expectations are a big part of it because, um, you know, when a convention asks you to come to their con as a special guest, it's different than you just buying a ticket. Because if GM Bloodworth buys a ticket to WizardCon as an example, you game if you want. You don't want to game, you can sit there all weekend, do whatever you want. But for us as a convention, we expect our special guests to engage other guests. We expect them to put other games. Like as an example, Joe Block, the Greyhawk Grognard. He puts it best. he has said before, like on my channel when he interviewed me and Richard from Central New York, that when he goes to a convention as a special guest, he knows that he has an obligation to engage the convention goers. And that's kind of our thing is we want you to engage people, but it's transactional
Mm-hmm.
because also along with us expecting of you to, like if you came as an example, I would say, well, hey Richard, I want you to do is I want you to either do like a vlogcast live from the convention, maybe do a couple mini like quick streams from the convention, interview a few people possibly, or maybe run some games. But what does Richard Bloodworth get in return? And that's the important
Right.
distinction here between the special guest and just the normal. And I'm not trying to belittle them, but the
Right.
normal guy or gal who buys a ticket to come for a day or for the weekend in game. It is transactional. So, what do you expect? And so, with us, I now I'll admit, I stood back and I said, okay, who's going to do a convention? What do I want to aspire to? I don't want to be a Gary Con. I don't want to be a Total Con. I don't want 1,000 guests.
Right.
I want to be, believe it or not, like Bad Mike. I want to be like, North Texas, because that's a capped at about 500. I think he's doing a little bit more than 500 this year.
Right.
And that's a comfortable amount of people. Like Tim Cass told me, I was talking to Tim about it. Tim's been a real big help to me. And like Tim said, keep the member count low so you have that personal feel, that that good neighborly vibe instead of this arm to arm, elbow to elbow, you know, you know, you know, butt to butt type convention. And Tim Kask was one that really helped guide me because, Tim, let's face it, has been there, done that. If it involves a D20, Tim Kask has done it. And he's been to many, many conventions and also Gary Con since the beginning. And, Tim said, keep it small, Don. Keep it small. So that's the kind of mantra I've done.
Yeah, I think of all of the people that I know who have run conventions now, they all have said to me at least that slow growth. And
Yes.
it's like they want slow, steady growth, and they all have that same roughly that cap. It's like I like the 500 number, and above that it's they're not quite sure. And it's for exactly the same reasons that both you and Tim Kask are saying, is that you kind of lose that feel of it.
Well, like this year with WizardCon, we have a venue that'll hold about 550 people.
Right.
But, I'm hoping we get this big this year, but we're capping ticket sales at 400.
Right.
400's it. And the reason why is because we want to come under our max capacity,
right?
Because last year we were a little less than half that. And it's an undertaking, but I also want though people to understand that when they come to our convention, I want them to be able to walk up to Tim Kask, or I want them to walk up to Tom Wham's going to be there this year and say, oh, can I get this signed by you or picture with you? I want that ability to be able, like last year, Heidi Gygax, Mark Hunt playing gangbusters. People got to interact with the special guests, and that's real important. And I think a lot of the bigger conventions have lost that because the special guests are kind of like off and aloof in some of these conventions. And I'm not pointing any one convention out, but sadly, it's true. Yeah. And I don't want that for WizardCon. We will never. I will tell you right now. I don't care how popular it gets. We will never yield to the pressure of going above 550-ish. That's going to be our forever cap. Keep it small and intimate. Intimate. That's what Tim Kask calls it.
Yes. Yeah. It gives you that sense of when you're walking through the gaming room, and you might have 40 tables in that size of a convention, and you'll be like, oh, I played with this person yesterday, or this person was in my game this morning, and you can just scan the room and you'll start to recognize faces, especially by day two, and if you've missed that opportunity to really connect with somebody, you're going to see them again, across that same room and be
Yeah.
able to, hey, why don't we go and at lunchtime and sit down and have a chat and do whatnot, have a beer and just talk about so far what our convention experience has been, or do you want to come on the channel afterwards or whatnot, which I was able to do with
Yeah.
Central New York because it was so small. you
Well,
know Go ahead.
Mark's genre mixer asks an interesting question. He says, "How do vendors and new game sellers feel about smaller cons? Wouldn't they want more attendees by default?" And you know, as a vendor, I have a publishing company. I have been to other conventions where I have sold games, and I'm an author, my books, and also I do artwork, schematics. And so, believe it or not, I see the point that Mark's genre mixer is trying to make here, but
Mhm.
also it can be kind of a bad thing, I think, to have too many people because one thing that was explained to me by a lady at WizardCon, she was telling me her experience at Gen Con. And
Mhm.
she was like talking about how literally when you're in the Gen Con vendor areas, you can't just stop. You're
Right,
being pushed by the crowd, literally. So I think by having a lower count, yes, you're not going to get someone like Watsy or Chaosium to come to your con at 500 people, probably.
right,
But the smaller vendors will enjoy, I think, that more intimate feel because there's more room for the vendors to interact with the attendees in that case.
right,
And that's what we looked at with the second WizardCon is not only did we have problems with the first venue, and that's another thing, you have to be able to kind of move on your feet.
right.
Um, we changed to Battle Creek from Kalamazoo because I'm from Battle Creek, and
Hmm.
I want to have a convention in Battle Creek. So we found our venue. And the great thing about WizardCon this year is the vendors will be right in the main area. So in order to get to the gaming room, you got to go through the vendors. And when you walk out of the gaming area, the vendors are right there. So the vendors and the attendees have to mix. They have to see each other. So that's a good thing.
Um, I'm going to address that same question. So just to relay without giving any names, but at the Central New York RPG Con, which is the first year of it,
Hmm.
it was about 200 people, which is phenomenal for a first year
Hmm. Yeah,
convention.
Roger knocked it out of the ballpark. He did a
Yeah,
hell of a
it
job.
really did. And the gaming tables and the vending tables were in the same room, and all of the vending tables were in the perimeter, and the gaming tables were obviously in the middle of it. And anytime there was a break, because these are 4-hour blocks and you tend to take a break or whatever, and the players at the table during the breaks when they're getting their lunch or whatever would turn and they'd be right next to a vending table.
Hmm.
And I heard from one vendor, all right, and again, no names, he made more money in the 4 hours that he was in at that one day at that con during that 4 hour period than he did at another convention that was 8 times the size,
Sure, because it's
a
it's all
large
about
vending
it.
hall.
Yeah, because it's all about, and that was our thinking. That
Yeah.
went heavily into. I'm gonna tell you what happened with WizardCon One. WizardCon One was a great learning experience for us because one thing that I'm a big fan of is I think that yeah, you can stand up with your successes and pat yourself on the back and hear me roar type stuff, but better yet, it's the things that you fall short of that really can help you become better if you're willing to look at them. And the whole thing with the vendors with us was at WizardCon 1, they were off in a different room, except for the ones in the main gaming area. So this new venue, which will be WizardCon 2 and 3, or excuse me, 3 and 4 and 5, they're our permanent venue now. Yeah, you're addressing him too?
Yeah, I'm seeing
I
what's
think
going
he's a
on with.
bot of some type, is what he
Yeah,
is.
I'm gonna.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
while you're doing that, I think the thing is the reason why those vendors did well at Rogers Convention is because number one, it was the only place the vendors could be was right there. So there was not another location. And, I really looked at that
Hmm.
and I asked people with the smaller cons, a bunch of people, how can I make it better? And that was a big feedback. get the vendors in the gaming sphere, that ball where all the games are going at. So, you know, that's what I want to do. And with us, our venue's fairly large, so it gives us the chance to have vendors again right outside that gaming area, but also on the inside they're going to ring the gaming area, the
Hmm.
main gaming. So
Sorry, I just had to take care of that. I lost
no, you're fine. It
track a
just says
little
I
bit.
I have a oops something reloaded. So
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
I think
yes,
you
the
turned off.
comment was at the
I
same.
I think you accidentally turned off chat or banned everybody.
Did I?
Yeah, because it's like nobody's in chat now. Everybody's gone.
Oh boy. All right. Let's see what I did.
That's
Uh,
all right. We're
I thought
we're
I banned the one.
that's okay.
Let's see. No, I saw another one come up. So this is a new one.
Okay, good, perfect.
Yeah, I think it was just that one person. That was the only
Yep.
person I clicked on.
And
So
UConn, by the way, is one of our local ones. UConn is at up by the University of Michigan, so that's a convention that's been around forever, and it's fairly large. But they're ones that kind of put vendors in the same area too.
yeah, yeah. Thank you everyone for checking that. It is so
Okay.
rare. I can't even remember the last time I had to block somebody on on the chat. So yeah, glad to see that I didn't friendly fire anybody. So
That's no problem.
um, so yeah, so back to expectations.
Yeah.
So I had this conversation several times actually. I did a live stream a little while ago when I think Eric Tenkar first brought up, the issue of special guests and some expectations,
Yeah.
and um, in recent weeks, I guess, so we
Yeah. That was a couple weeks ago. He
few
did that. He
weeks,
did a good
um,
video.
some of that has also come up again with expectations of not so much convention organizer to special guest or special guest to convention
Hmm.
organizer, but special guest to special guest.
Yes.
And so that's something that I'd like to broach because
Sure.
this is a fairly big community, if you want to call it that. Like anyone associated with
It's a
online and
community.
TTRPGs and
Yeah.
going to conventions and everything, there are a lot of personalities, all right,
Hmm.
on the internet. And
Yep.
as we just saw in my chat window here, and not everyone is the same kind of person online as they
Sure.
are in person, number one.
Hmm.
But you never know, and so things do happen at conventions that are really pretty disturbing. Sometimes even criminal occurrences have taken place, like at Gen Con and such.
Yep.
So and now with such a large convention like that, yes, that's going to happen. But
Hmm.
even at smaller conventions, we can have this. So, as a convention organizer, um, have you had to, before recent events, have you had to think about that kind of a potential interaction?
Yes. Right off the bat, we tried to kind of think about, the what ifs. And, what if we get an intoxicated guest?
Mhm,
We had a very extensive policy, a firearm policy. Michigan's an open carry state, but the problem was the hotel barred firearms. So we
mhm,
had to look at that, just a whole bunch of little stuff. But, um, you know, my attitude on it is that, the majority of us there are adults. And you know, if I have a special guest as an example, and they don't like another special guest, okay, I just ask them, listen, I understand you guys don't like each other. I'm not expecting you guys to hug, but you know what? Be civil because we're all adults. I understand different personalities. There's people out there I don't like, and there's people that don't like me. Guess what? That's a normal thing in this world.
right.
And then you interject politics into it, which have been a hot and heavy thing the last few years. Then you interject social politics, and it becomes a sticky mire for convention organizers because, here we are. We want to put on a game convention where everybody's having fun.
Right.
But we also have to navigate also, you know, you have a right to wear a shirt that says I like X.
Hmm.
And this person has a right to wear a shirt that says I like X. And if you both are wearing opposite shirts, then guess what? I save it for the parking lot, save it for a bar. It's not a convention type thing for you
Right.
two to engage in it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of been our thing with the convention, because I know, you know, sooner or later, you know, there's another thing. You know, you got a place that serves alcohol, and there's some people out there that are great human beings until you interject a couple bottles of
Yeah.
Coors in them,
Yeah.
and then the animal comes out. So,
Hmm.
you know, Scott Mulder was helping me at, is going to be helping with WizardCon too. There he is. And me and him talked at the convention about, while we were there, you know, let's keep an eye out, because you always have to be cognizant. Got to make sure everybody is respecting everybody. I had an issue, and I'm not going to mention any names, but we had an issue of a service dog there. The service dog was growling at people. The hotel came up to me and said, Don, he's got to put a leash on the service dog.
Right.
I had to be the bearer of bad news. Now he did, and it was just a grumbling. But those are the things that you got to relate to when you're dealing with the convention. The little small things,
Yeah.
and you just hope there ain't big things. But you got to be prepared for the big things.
Yeah. Drug abuse things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Um, you know, to that, about wearing certain attire and everything.
Hmm.
That actually came up before I attended Page Two,
Hmm.
and it came across my channel and everything, and it gets to, you know don't display your real world politics.
That's preferable.
If you're going to
Absolutely.
a convention, remember, you're going to a convention. Uh, being being welcoming at your table to everyone who is coming to you, because you don't know who's coming to your table.
Yeah.
um, why would you possibly wear something that is going to piss off the other 70 million people, just to put it in the context of the election time, right?
Well, and I can
And
answer that very simply for
yeah.
you. And the reason why people do that is because I think that many times people are not doing that on purpose. They do it because, and I hate to be this flippant about it, but you know, they just like, it's like you're wearing a Castles and Crusades shirt.
Hmm.
Why? Because you like Castle and Crusades.
Right.
You know, um, what is the politics of the creator of Castle and Crusades? Who cares?
Right.
But should a convention be allowed to go, Richard? You know, I see you got that, you know, Castle and Crusade shirt. They voted this way. You can't wear that shirt. You know, no. You
Yeah.
know, you can have a dress policy. Like we had
Right.
one that says you cannot have anything that has profanity on it, or anything that's designed to incite, you know, racial or political hatred. We did that on purpose
Right.
because you can use ambiguous language to give you
Hmm.
that flex, you know,
Yes.
flexibility. But as a convention, you have to be really careful, because you got to be mindful though of people's, you know, right to be able to exist, and you got to be cognizant of people's right to express themselves. So it's a delicate dance. And as a
Hmm.
convention organizer, one thing I do not want to do, I do not want to, and it shouldn't be my job to have my politics
Hmm.
dictate to you how you should be and act, as long as you're being civil
Right.
and not violating our basic written policies.
Hmm.
So and I have no problem with the convention, as an example, saying you can't wear a Trump or you can't wear a Biden shirt. Let's just pick on them both, okay? I'm fine with that. But you have it in writing, so it's equally enforceable.
Right.
But by having but some conventions have policies that are kind of just, well, it's not a written policy, it's a policy you should know as an attendee or as a special guest. And it's like, you're being unfair with people, because people can't guess. You know,
Yeah.
I suck at mind reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I think it's really important as a convention to understand that you expect your guests to respect other guests.
Right.
And they can do that, and you can enforce your policies as written, but you also have to respect other people, and within reason it goes both ways. And like I said,
Yes.
it's a big swamp full of all kinds of sand pits and traps out there when you start getting into that.
Mm.
Keep the politics out of cons, please. I'm as left as they come. And you know what? The funny thing is,
Mm.
how long have I known you, Richard? A couple years now?
Couple years now, yeah.
We've talked often on Facebook
Right.
and etc. Been on your show a couple once, I think once before or twice before. Do you know the funny thing is? I don't know how you vote, and you don't know how I vote.
That's right.
Why? Because we don't give a shit.
Right. It doesn't come up. You
Yeah,
know,
because it's not important.
same thing with my 6 to 8 players that are on my table that have been at my table now
Yeah,
for almost 4 years now. All
yeah.
right. I couldn't tell you how they voted, whether they're, necessarily married or not,
Yeah.
what their sexual orientation is, what their, identifiers other than their first names. And some of them I don't even know their real first name. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? It's like,
yeah.
and because it's not important to what we're doing at game time,
Well, and that's the same thing. You look at Eric Tenkar and Tom Veroldt.
Right.
Me, Eric, and Tom talk just about every day.
Mhm.
I have been on Eric and Tom's show and vice versa. Hell, we do a show every Thursday night together.
Right.
And I've known them now for 3.5 years solid. And guess what? I couldn't tell you how they voted it'd be a 50-50 coin toss.
Yeah.
And the reason why is this, and Eric has said this before, and so has Tom on their shows, is that, your political beliefs are not a mandatory line on my application to be a friend. I have very simple requirements to be my friend. Don't be an asshole to me, and I won't be one to you. Respect me, and I'll respect you. And let's have fun in game, because guess what? This is what this is all about.
Right.
Your channel is all about having fun and gaming and talking about the important issues that matter. Sometimes those issues are difficult to talk about. Sometimes they're tough issues. And let's face it, with the OGL scandal and things that happened with a certain company that sued WotC, some gamers have had a tough time this last 3 years, and it's sad that it happens, but what we have to do as a community is come together. And gaming conventions is where that happens.
I don't think most people would even know who now Ralph Nader is at this
Well,
time.
that's a blast in the past. Ralph Nader,
Yeah,
Joe, I'm sorry, but if you wear
Yeah.
a Ralph Nader shirt at my
if
convention,
I could wear my Ross Perot shirt, so
I bet you people wouldn't even know who Ross Perot was.
I know that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, that's a definite, that's a throwback to the '90s for both in that case. Yeah. So, it's just it's just an interesting thing, like I said, because, when I was going to page 2 as a special guest, there was at least one other special guest that I kind of knew that, we probably would not mesh well. So I made sure that I really didn't, engage with this person, but then the one time that we did actually come together, I basically said, hey, you know what? Everybody has a, slightly different personality on, online than they do on that. I can understand, I don't think that I'm an asshole, for the most part, but, I can be somewhat stubborn. All right. Or, somewhat abrasive to some.
Sure.
But I said, so if I had ever said anything that was, that you took personally offensively, I apologize for that. And he was a complete jerk about it. You know what I'm saying? It was like,
some people are.
Oh, all right, affirmed, and that was it. And I was like, all right, now I know never to even, try to do that kind of a thing.
But you say, thank you for verifying what I've always thought.
Yeah.
And smile and walk away.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. Hold on a sec. All right. I just got to close the door. I'm loud.
No problem. Let's see here. I'm looking at his little collection on his back wall there. I need to get his address so when I break into his house, I know to grab that white box set right there. Right there, that white box set. Sorry, I was talking about burglarizing your home.
Well, there's two white box sets there. So,
Ah,
and I cherish them both. So,
but I think you're right. I think what you have to do is when you go to a con, you have to realize that you know we've all had interactions with people online, and we get into arguments.
mhm,
You know, and those arguments online can be a little abrasive because with some people the keyboard gives them a level of freedom that they normally would not have face to face. But
right.
the way I always take things is there's been many people online that have been damn abrasive to me, and I've been abrasive back to them equally.
Mhm,
But you know what? If I see them in person, and even if I remembered their face and their name, you know what? Guess what? Everybody has a bad freaking day once in a while.
mhm,
I've been a jerk online to people, as other people have. If you run around holding a grudge against everybody who's ever said anything abrasive to you via Facebook, especially, or Twitter, then you're not going to probably be a very happy camper.
right.
So you just got to kind of, especially as a publisher and as a convention organizer. I mean, you talked earlier about this, and this is something I really want to mention is you said earlier about wanting to make sure your convention is a success because either it is or it isn't. And that's the biggest worry I had. I wasn't worried about losing money. I figured I'd lose money the first convention. Everybody
Right.
told me I would. We broke even pretty much happily. But
Mhm,
what I was worried about the most is my attendees. Did they have a good time?
right.
I really wanted my attendees to walk away from the convention and go, that was a small convention, but I want to come back next year,
Right.
And that's what makes it worthwhile for me and my wife. Cause, after it was all done and said, we got in the car together. I'm not joking. We kind of just stopped and we're sitting in the car outside the hotel. And I looked at my wife. She looked at me and I said, did we just put on a game convention? And my wife laughed and said, we did.
Yeah.
And it's just like it hits you, So, happy guests is a big thing, but also I want to make sure my special guests are happy. And we tried to do that with WizardCon.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that, it's something that I guess it's part of the learning curve, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're running a convention for the first time and, you have special guests. And I know this has been spoken about, that there are different levels of special guest. And I think that's,
I don't agree with that. I don't
yeah,
agree with
that's
that at
something
all.
that's like, whoa, wait a second. Like, I get it. Like, if you're running a convention and there's somebody that's a true superstar, you know, um, you know, uh, then
There's
yeah, there,
minimums
there
to me,
might be
Richard.
there might be some argument towards it, like, hey, this person is going to sell tickets, right? Because people want to see this particular guest.
Well, that's why you
Right,
normally get special guests is because that name
right,
recognition brings people
right.
to your convention. I mean,
You know,
yeah.
so if you're going to do something like that and say, well, I'm going to have this special guest, and this special guest, I'm going to fly this person in, I'm going to give them a hotel. Obviously, their badge is included, and just their mere presence there is my only expectation for them. Then you shouldn't have so many special guests so that you can treat them all roughly the same.
But there's,
Or
but to me, okay, I agree with you that, let's face it, if you're going to have Don Semora at your convention as a special guest, Don Semora is by far very, very, very low on the old totem pole of special guests than somebody, let's say, like, Frank Menser or Tim Kask or Luke Gygax or
yeah,
and such. But to me, there are bare minimums. And your bare minimums is at least give your guests a hotel room.
yeah.
I mean, give them, a hotel room. Maybe give them, if you can't afford plane tickets and such, you know, at least the hotel room, like with WizardCon, we did hotel room and we had a special room off to the side for special guests, and we
Mhm.
provided, like soda pop waters, vitamin waters, snack food. We did a nice cake for them and said, "Welcome to WizardCon. Thank you for coming." Things like that we did,
Mhm.
because that's just because we're a small convention.
Right.
Some conventions offer a lot more to their special guests, like they fly their guests in or they give them whatever. But to me, no matter what, you got to give that special guest something as a bare minimum.
Right. Um,
So,
yeah, and as someone who has been in that, under that situation, like I know you offered all of what you just said to me
mhm.
for last year's convention.
We have to every special guest. It's a
Yeah,
mandatory
and and,
minimum.
and so I was like, wow, that's really incredible. I wish I could do it. I wish I didn't have the
I
conflict
get it. You
last
Hey,
year, or next year, but I
first come
will.
first served.
Yeah, I will be there 2027. All right,
I'll hold you to it. Hey, everybody, you
that
heard
is
them.
etched. That is etched in. So yours will be my convention where I go away. So that I'm pledging right
That's fine.
now, barring any other
No worries.
circumstances over the
I get
next
it.
year and a half before that happens. But minimally, I have been, because I run a lot of games at conventions.
Yeah.
Those are almost always included. All right.
Hmm.
But that's the same kind of thing that happens with anybody who is game mastering 12 hours or more over the course of a 3-day con. All
Hmm.
right. Might be a little bit less if it's only a 2-day con, because that's really kind of tight to get 12 hours in just 2 days.
Hmm.
But that's been pretty standard. Like when I go as a game master for a convention and I'm running 3 or 4 or even more sessions, the
Yeah.
badge is included. All right. And that would be my expectation. If I'm running that many games, I shouldn't have to pay for my badge. The only time that I pay for my badge beyond that is for much smaller cons. And
Hmm.
and number two, if I want to play in a certain game, because you don't get the same
Yeah.
you don't get the same thing, because tabletop events
Uh,
doesn't allow special guest badges to do the early register for games.
yeah.
So you're kind of put at the end of the line, or at the same time as the general public is. And it's like,
Hmm.
well, I really want to play in Frank Metzner's game, or in
Hmm.
Alan Hammock's game or whatever. So I'm buying my ticket anyway,
Yeah.
and let them sort that out later on, how to, compensate me for running my games. So that's my expectation as a special guest.
Hmm.
At least cover my badge,
Yep.
but also tell me what you want me to do for you.
Hmm.
As a convention, runner, I want to know, do you want me to sit at a table,
Hmm.
do a panel? Do you want me to do interviews like you were saying, earlier on? Do you want me to go around, since I'm a vlogger? That's my, my that's my more exposure to
Yeah.
the
Your forte.
from that is yeah, I will gladly go around and give each vendor some time to talk about what they're doing, and give me a block of time that's what I'll do, and I'll go around and do that as well. So yeah, have some expectations of what what you
You need
want
them.
me to do. That also includes bringing you on before your convention, several times before your convention,
Hmm.
especially when you're releasing new info and everything. Any convention organizer is welcome on my channel to pitch their convention and then repitch it, and then say, hey, we have these new lineup of
Hmm.
special guests. Can I come on your channel and talk about that? Yeah, absolutely. Right up until like 2 weeks, I think I had Roger from Central New York Con on my channel like 2 weeks before the con itself, maybe
Hmm.
the weekend before. It was like, hey, you know what? Come on out here. And that was the last pitch for it. And then I did a follow up afterwards. And I
Hmm.
think that's also a responsibility that a special guest has, is to do an after action report, basically. Hey,
Yeah.
this was the experience. This is, the positives that, I really enjoyed. To be honest with you, and I said this to Roger too, I had no cons, no negatives about his
Hmm.
first year convention.
Hmm.
It was smooth. It was
Good.
really, really good. And I had a great time at the first page and the second page. Uh,
Hmm.
the biggest issue that I had with the second page was I came home with the flu. All right, and that has nothing to do with the convention itself.
Hmm.
It just so happened to be that I came home with the flu, and that was a bigger bugaboo for my wife and my kids, that I
Hmm.
had to quarantine myself for 10 days after the convention. And we're like, well, what was it worth it? Was it worth it? And I'm still in my head saying, yeah, kind of was, but not for them. It wasn't.
Hmm.
So that was the other thing, and that might just be a big con issue, because I always heard
Well,
about.
you got a lot of people. It's called con crud.
Yeah, I've always I've always heard about it. I've just never experienced it myself. So maybe that was the
Hmm.
first time, that I had it. But but yeah, if that were a usual thing, then I'd be like, oh, I'm going to, like, 50 people or less, kind of
Hmm.
convention thing. But um, so yeah, there are expectations that I want the convention runner to have of me, or any special guest that are going in there. And then similarly, we have expectations coming back the other direction as well.
Yeah. Well, Paul mentions about
Yeah.
post con feedback, and that's what we did. We sent emails out to everybody who came to the con with a sheet that
Mm.
just said, an email just said, answer these simple questions. What did you like? What did you not like? Suggestions, and you take all those and you can use that post convention feedback, and I think it's an invaluable tool. I think every convention should do it, and just use that information and soak it in, and just take it and run with it is what I think you should do.
All this talk about WizCon is making me excited to go again. Yeah. And
Uh,
and yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear from other people. I'm sure it's like, wow, people
I'm
want to.
glad to hear people had a good time. And
Yeah.
he asked when ticket and rooms are available. Rooms are going to be available here in about another week and a half or so. We're going to have that link up on the WizardCon page, and we're having a new website up. And we're actually bypassing tabletop events. We're writing a new website where you can do everything on our website.
Oh, that'll
And
be good.
eventually, if things go smooth with that website, then by triggering a couple lines of code, we're going to turn it on where it can become just like tabletop events, and you can put your convention on there.
Oh, that'll be great.
Yeah. So that's basic. Yeah. And you know what? I'll be going to CNY next year. So me and my wife are heading to Central New York Con in 2026. So we're looking forward to it.
Yep, I will be there as well, and I'm sure Eric will be there. And
Hmm.
I'm fairly certain a lot of those, everyone that went to that con really enjoyed it, at
Yeah.
least from what
I've heard a
I
lot of
got
good things
from
about
them.
it.
So I would expect everyone to return, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really excited about it. So now let's get to the topic of, when you have two special guests, or actually,
Mhm.
I will bridge it this way. So I had put out a post, all right,
Oh, yeah.
a response post to a posting that I saw online, and I was on vacation. I don't know what the hell possessed me to to engage in something like that, on the second to last day of my vacation. But I threw out a post there. So if you're not familiar, if you didn't see it, I responded to a Green Ronin post
Yeah.
that was asking to raise money for a legal fight that they're going to have with the bankruptcy of uh,
Distributors.
Diamond distributors.
Yeah.
All right. So Diamond Distributors, if you're not aware of they're really more well known for comic books and
Yeah.
being the distributor for the major comic books.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that put the comic books into not just the small comic book shops, which are virtually gone anyway, but
They go everywhere. They're major. They're big. They're
yeah,
big
but they
people.
go to the big
Yep.
sellers as well. So they're the big bookstores, they're the Amazons, they're distributing to everybody.
Yeah.
All right, and globally too. So they're a global thing, but they have been struggling for years.
Yeah.
All right, Diamond has always been on the verge of
Collapse.
Chapter 11 or
Yeah.
bankruptcy. I believe Chapter 11 is a stage before bankruptcy, but bankruptcy is like we're
Yeah.
done.
They've been on the edge of it for a while now.
Yeah, so they've been back and forth between Chapter 11 and bankruptcy for quite some time now. So what's happening is that, and this is my understanding, and you're more of an expert than I am. So I'm just using this is the Webster's Dictionary.
Yeah, I get it.
Consignment, consigner, consignee relationship, right? You're going to warehouse my product and sell off my product as they are purchased, and I will get a percentage of that sale, and you get a percentage of that sale, and then your creditors get a percentage of that sale.
Yeah.
All right. And if the consigner is going bankrupt now, the first payee of their bankruptcy is going to be their creditors. All right. And they can sell off their stock. All right. Their product stock. I don't mean their share stock.
Yeah.
Their product stock at a lower price. All right. And you're still getting your percentage. You're not guaranteed that price point. You're guaranteed the percentage. Am I correct?
No, what basically with Diamond filing bankruptcy, the way it goes is if you're a creditor, okay, and like you have games with Diamond, okay, like Green Ronin does. The problem with a bankruptcy like that, we ran into that with the new TSR bankruptcy because we were a creditor with their bankruptcy, is the bankruptcy court looks at how much are you owed by this company that's going into bankruptcy versus how much are you due under the bankruptcy code. And there's an argument saying basically this is what Diamond is, or this is what Green Ronin is saying, is we're consignees. They have our product. They haven't paid for that product, so they don't own it. Right. So we should be able to get our product back at the minimum. And what Diamond is saying is no, was consigned to us. Well, if you look at the bankruptcy provision, Green Ronin is SOL. Now, Green Ronin claims that they have found a loophole in the law that allows them to possibly gain their product back. The problem is there are no loopholes in the law. The law is the law. We learned that through our dealings with the bankruptcy court when we tried to say, hey, because the problem is that you may read the law in one way, but the way the law reads and what it means usually is something really different. That's why there's lawyers that go to school so long.
Right.
So the argument is Diamond is doing this Kickstarter because they're trying to raise money, and I respect this, to try to fight this.
Yeah.
And in your post, and I have a post pulled up here as reference, you pretty much just said, hey, I don't agree with this. They're online asking for money, and you mentioned the orange list, which Green Ronin pushed, and so did the owner of Green Ronin. Mm-hmm. And the orange list basically was, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but to keep it simple for everybody out there, is the orange list was a list of people who voted a certain way in the election the last few election cycles, a couple election cycles ago.
Yeah, 2016.
Yep. And it was basically them saying, if all of these people and businesses do not give them your business, they don't deserve your business, let's put them out of business. And your point is they put this list out demanding you to put these businesses out. And now that they're on the verge of collapse, they're asking for money.
Right.
That's what I agreed to. And my post was, and I quote, excellent response, spot on.
Yeah.
Bloodward.
And yeah, that was my point of that, was that basically this is the same person or the same group of individuals who back in 2016 said that if you support this way, if you vote this way, we do not want you to buy our product, play our games. Then they took it another step further
That's right.
and they started to generate with that list and amongst their mutuals,
Yeah.
all right, whether it on Facebook or X at the time,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you shouldn't be associating with these people. And they would reach out to all of their
Mm-hmm.
mutuals, and this was what was called the block ban, right?
Yes.
And so that's what they started doing. And it was at the height of cancel culture,
Yes.
in 2016, 2017. And so now, and what I said in my comment was that, you know, here you are asking for money.
Yeah.
All right. And you get nothing in return for that money, by the way. You're giving
Mm-hmm.
them money to fight their case. You're not going to get anything. It's not like you're backing something, that you're going to get a product or anything like that. You're just giving them money to fight for themselves.
And the money that they want
Yeah,
won't even touch the surface of a court battle in
right,
bankruptcy
right.
court.
So,
So it's not even money they could use for they may get a filing out of it and an
yeah.
argument. But that's about it.
So I said, wouldn't it have been better not to have done that back then? And then some of the responses, because I started getting, some
Mm-hmm.
people reaching out to me and saying, hey, you know what? I was just approached by one person with 20 other mutuals saying that I shouldn't be friends with you,
Mm-hmm.
and I was
Yeah.
like, you see, they're proving my point. They're going
Yeah.
right back to where they were back then. So you're
Yeah.
asking for money out of one side of your mouth, and yet you're trying to block people from another side.
Yeah.
Now,
Help me with my business.
yeah,
Meanwhile, let's get this person out of business.
yeah, or just excommunicated or whatever. They
Yeah.
let's kick them out of the hobby. I always love that one. I'm
Yeah.
going to kick you out of the hobby. I was like, all right, how are you managing to do that? It's like
Yeah.
I need 5 or 6 players at my table. As
Yeah.
long as I have 5 or 6 players at my table, I could play my hobby until the day I die.
Yeah.
But anyway, it just proved the point, and then some of the responses to that, within the convention, within the convention space,
Sphere. Yeah.
has been bizarre, in my
Well, I mean,
opinion. So,
to be blunt,
yeah.
I was a special guest at a convention,
Mhm.
and I was literally, confronted by the convention organizers and saying, "How come you made that comment on Bloodworth's post? They mentioned your post. They showed me, and they
Yeah.
said you violated our policy. Again, it was an unwritten policy of
Mhm.
beefing with other convention goer, special guests. I'm not beefing with anybody. I wouldn't know Chris from Green Ronin Games if he was on this video with us right now. And you said this
Right.
is Bob. I'd call him Bob. And so I was literally removed from a convention as a special guest. It was Paige. I'll just say it. And to this day, I asked him, "Let me see a copy of the policy," and they couldn't provide it because there was no written policy at that time. I'm sure they have created one now and put it on their website. But
Right.
the point being is, as a convention organizer, when you begin attempting to tell people what they will say online with their private account, you're touching dangerous ground, because what happens next is
Right.
the next step. You're going to tell me who I can be friends with. Is the next step. I mean, what is the next step here? And that was my argument to them was, you're citing a policy that's not there. You're
Right.
removing me as a special guest, citing this invisible policy. And I told them flat off, this is none of your business. This is my personal account. I didn't do it on Paige's website. I didn't mention Paige. It's not my company's site. And all I said was, excellent response, spot on. I don't think I was attacking anybody per se.
Right.
But again, they interjected, and Ron did. Ron interjected his personal politics and personal dislikes into this. And fine, his convention, he can disinvite me. That's more
Right.
power to him. But it doesn't mean I have to keep my mouth shut about it and say that it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you're a special guest at my convention, and Joe Smith is a special guest at my convention, and you speak out against Joe Smith, and even if Joe Smith approaches me and says, "Hey, this guy's wrong," I'm just going to tell you both, listen, guys, I don't care what your personal beef is. At my convention, be professional and be nice.
Right.
Simple.
Yeah.
But that's the dangerous ground that we walk on as convention organizers is we're not God.
Hmm.
Yes, we are the rulers of our realm of that convention, but keep your nose out of people's politics, keep your nose out of what they're doing. Just demand professionalism. Be professional. That's all you
Yeah.
got to do. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I
What
mean,
gets me is that no one reached out directly to me and said, "Hey, you know what?
yeah,
This is nobody said a word to me."
yeah,
Now maybe and it makes it even more weird because I wasn't even attending Page
yeah,
this year. For a variety of reasons, but the number one was that it's just too close to the other convention that I have
yeah.
already said I was going to attend.
And you shouldn't have to give a reason to begin with.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
so it was like so I'm not even an attendee to a convention,
yeah.
and so why they would hold you accountable for simply agreeing to me when I'm not even an attendee to the convention is even more
Well,
space removed from.
I think I know the reason, and I know that we all have to go here, but I think the real reason is this. I think that there's a level of favoritism being played.
Mhm.
Let's face it, Green Ronin Games is higher up on the proverbial gaming food chain than Don at Wizard Tower Games is. They buy more booth space, they do more for Page, and I don't know if a comment was made. They claim that 3 people complained about the post.
Mhm.
I asked who the people were, and I was told they're not going to give me that information. And I just told them, I says, that's like kindergarten, grade school games here. We're all adults
Right.
here. You know, if someone comes to me and says, I got a problem with Bloodworth, ban him, and I'm going to ban you, you at least have the right to know who made the complaint.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, they decided that I was removed from the convention. They don't want me there. I'm fine with that. I will have WizardCon. I will take my business to other conventions. I wish him luck.
Hmm.
I think that Page is a great thing for the East Coast. Ron has enjoyed very good success very quickly. But if Ron was on this channel, I would just very, in a friendly manner, give him some sage advice. And that is be very careful when you begin going down this road of pulling these power trips, because sooner or later, you're going to power trip on the wrong person. And that person's going to have the ability to power trip back on you. And
Right.
you could potentially open up a very sticky mess. And frankly, it's kind of shameful to do that to an individual who's been nothing but supportive of you and did nothing directly to your convention.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Like I said, that it's like twice removed. It's like
Yeah,
I'm not going, and nothing we said had anything to do with the convention at all.
yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't even think it was announced that Green Ronin Games,
It was
or
not that I seen.
or
They
was
announced it. They announced it after you made your post.
yeah. So it was like it was so bizarre, very very
It is
bizarre. It
what
was
it
almost
is.
like trying to create the excuse of something after the fact,
Yeah.
and again, it's just, now when I said like during the stream, and I apologize that I wasn't able to stream from the Bahamas
No,
and
you're
get
fine.
that thing to work. It was like everything was very intermittent, but I said, I'm sorry it turned out this way for you and anyone else.
Yeah, it is
um,
what it is.
I'm not sorry for what I said,
Don't be.
but I'm sorry that the response of it, impacted anybody but myself, because I own what I say,
And you know what? And I own what I say. And that's
yeah,
why I
and it's
said to them right off the beginning, it's none of your business.
yeah,
My private account on something that has nothing to do with your convention, far removed 10 times, you don't have a right to tell me what I can say. And their direct response was, and this is important before we go, Ron had the balls to tell me that when you make a post on Facebook, it becomes our business.
yeah, that's crazy.
So more power to
That's
them.
Yeah,
Is what it
That's
is.
you know, so Bob, I've not been a fan of Green and Ronin since they told me we don't want your money and we don't want you playing our games.
I mean,
So that goes back to prior to 2016. I didn't even know who the hell they were.
yeah,
I had no connection whatsoever to Chris Pramis prior to that.
yeah.
I had
Like I
no
said,
idea who it was, and they weren't
I,
the only ones that did that. I mean,
it was a list that was spread around by a lot
there
of
was
people.
there was
Sadly,
yeah there was several
yeah,
people very prominently put out there
yeah.
that hey, we don't want you buying our games, and we're going to try to, because Twitter was very much a different place back in 2016, and so
Hmm.
they had a lot more power during then than
Yeah,
they do today, and I
yeah,
think that's something that they're going to learn really quick, is that it's not the same atmosphere as they had 8 years ago or 9 years ago. So
hmm.
anyway, so yeah, so to go back to Bob here, they didn't like me since then, so that's where it stands. Spill the tea. Um, what was there? What? Spill the tea. What was your post? My post was basically back, back in 2016, they generated a list of people that they wanted to disassociate from the hobby and have
Hmm.
people disassociate with. And now they're asking, in some cases, the same group of people that they wanted nothing to do with, to give them money, uh,
Hmm.
to bail them out.
Yeah,
And so
basically.
that's where it kind of stands.
It is what it is. At the end of the day, I wish Ron, um, you know, I wish him all the luck in the world. You know, Gladys convention is going well, but word of caution, Ron, if you're watching this, you know, be careful.
Yeah.
You start telling special guests what they can say and what they can do when it has nothing to do with your convention. You're just really on dangerous ground, I think, there. I really
Yeah.
do.
So let's see. Consignment people are unsecured creditors, and they will take in the neck during the bankruptcy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do. I mean, that's the
yeah,
bankruptcy code's the bankruptcy code. And like when we involved an attorney with the new TSR bankruptcy, she told us flat to our face, if you want one area of law that is rock solid, that's bankruptcy. Other areas, there's a million loopholes, ways you can play the game. Bankruptcy is tightly locked down. So it is what it is. So
yeah. Don, do you have a copy of a hard copy of the Gangbusters with you right there?
I do not have a hard copy.
Okay.
We're not going to be done with print and bind until probably in about another 4 or 5 days. But we're shipping them. They're going to start shipping on the 30th. Is what they're
Mm,
going to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, so wow, they are to pick up who gets to eat. That is silly, unless yeah. I mean, it went back to that argument, and we're going to wrap this up really soon.
Yeah. I gotta
That
get
was
going.
coming out during that time when they said, oh, we're going to kick you out of the hobby, and
Hmm.
at the time I was like, exactly how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, please. I was like, do you think that I need any new games?
Yeah.
Anything that has been published within the last
Well,
3 to 5 years? I
it's
mean,
like the whole thing with the 5e. Everyone hates 5e. I don't need 5e. I don't need 1e. You know why? I got my brain. I got my imagination.
yeah,
I can make endless adventures right now if I want. I don't need product.
yeah. Like Gary famously supposedly said, the biggest secret is that you don't need any books at all. You
Exactly.
know, and I don't need anything new. I have more than enough behind me to last me a lifetime,
Yep.
to last me 2 lifetimes. And I
Yep.
probably still won't get to running or playing everything that is
Yep.
behind me. So there's no, like I said, all I need is 4 or 5 people
Yep.
at my table. Really just one, because I've run games, one on one. But that's all I need.
Hmm.
And so there is no, we're going to get you out of the hobby kind of
Yep.
thing. And with all of these smaller cons sprouting up,
Yeah.
and and starting to get their legs underneath them, they they are, they'll fill in the gap. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to wrap this one up because I know we're about 10 minutes over now. So I apologize for that,
Oh,
Don.
no problem.
It was great having you on.
Thank
You're
you
always
very
welcome
much.
to come on. I will certainly try to catch you guys at 8 o'clock. Are you running tonight? You're going to be on.
No, I got to
Oh,
actually go pick up my daughter. So,
okay. You
yeah.
have a great one, everyone.
Yep.
Thanks for joining in,
Yeah.
and I'll be
Thank you
seeing
for having
you
me.
sometime soon. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone. I am going to end the stream. It'll take about 2-3 seconds.